Hello, welcome back to another episode on Red Foxy. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on new content.
Caught wife with best man. As a result, this dates back to the beginning of the most difficult year of my life. However, after several therapy sessions and conversations with all of the people I lost throughout the relationship, I am now ready to speak openly about it. It all began with my wife becoming more distant. I didn't pay much attention to it at the time, and I certainly didn't assume that my best man, who had just ended his 6-year relationship with his long-term girlfriend, was to blame. However, things became substantially worse when he was forced to vacate his flat and had nowhere to go. I made the decision that he could sleep on the sofa, and here is when the real fun starts for him, not me. It was the week before Christmas, and she had left for work. I was browsing the web for Christmas presents on my MacBook when a message appeared. It was my best man, and I was sort of oblivious to the fact that it was him. As soon as the next message appeared, it asked, "Is he working tonight?" And I went to investigate since it seemed strange to ask such a strange question. FTR, I never snoop. I start reading and am quickly in tears. Because I had faith in him, it affected me much more. The subject of what they want is brought up, and when I'm at work and it comes up, it's rather explicit. In shock and out of my wits, I go to his new apartment and knock on the door so loudly that he thinks it was the cops. When I go in and question him about the texts, he immediately responds by saying things like "It's out of context, go reread them, I would never do that," and other such things. I'm beginning to believe that I was just overthinking things. I go back home and reread them, as well as photograph them, since I'll need proof later. It was a good thing I did since she logged off a few minutes later as a result of my action. When she returns home, she demands an immediate separation, which I agreed to and departed for my folks. I returned the next day, completely unannounced, to pick up some of my belongings. When I inquire as to why his mobile phone charger is plugged in next to the bed, she attempts to claim it as hers. I point out that I have my own and that I do not own that particular brand. She then responds, "Well, we came in here and watched television." I know I've got her when I see her like that. I questioned her and inquired as to why. When there's a television in the living room, for example. She ejected me from our shared flat. Just a few weeks ago, when I served her, she agreed to all of the conditions and admitted that she had committed adultery. I only need to fill out one more paperwork and I'm divorced. Anyone who is going through a difficult period should seek professional help. It makes navigating these routes much more straightforward. Story 2. My now wife cheated less than a month into us dating. How do I move past this? I tried to keep it brief so as not to bore you all with too much information, but please accept my apologies for the length. After 2 years of dating, I, 33 years old, married my wife, 32 years old. To recap our connection, we knew of one other via my sister, and our families had long been friends, but we were never officially acquainted. However, we subsequently connected on social media and began conversing. After a few weeks of conversing, I purchased her a plane ticket, since we lived in separate locations, so we could finally meet, and we made our relationship official during her visit. We got engaged a year later and married 1.5 years later. We had been dating for around 2.5 years before getting married. We'd been married for a little over a month at this point, and I was scrolling through my phone for a meme I'd given to her a while before. I couldn't locate it, so I went to check her phone. I didn't want to wake her up since she was sleeping on the sofa. I knew her password since I'd seen her input it a few times before and figured it wouldn't be too difficult to look at her WhatsApp pics, because that's how I sent the meme. For the record, she often searches through the photographs on my phone, which I don't mind since she's my wife and girlfriend at the time, and I have nothing to hide. Anyway, while I was looking through her photos, I came upon a DCK picture in her album. My heart sunk instantly. I'd previously been cheated on by a former girlfriend, and I had discovered a DCK image on her phone, so I knew the signs. Naturally, I wanted to find out who took the photo, so I began browsing through her WhatsApp messages. Let me be the first to admit that I'm not proud of what I did, but I know from experience that merely inquiring about the photo won't get you the truth. And that was the truth that I sought. Initially, I couldn't locate anything after doing a thorough search. Then I came across her conversation with her closest friend, in which she mentions a man we'll name Mark. She has never mentioned Mark to me before, although I am familiar with the most of her pals, at least by name. She then tells her buddy that she had unprotected with Mark and that she had just discovered, after they had, that Mark had gotten another female pregnant. The message was sent less than a month after we started dating exclusively. As I read on, I discovered that she had a connection with Mark before I came into the scene, and she would go on dates with him. He'd send her money and they'd speak about everything and everything. According to what I've read, This persisted throughout our relationship and even after I proposed to her. The thing that surprised me the most was that we were supposed to move in together only a few days earlier. She got a job in my city about 6 months before our wedding. She met him on a date and told a pal, "Everything in me wants to have with Mark." This obviously made me feel ill. I couldn't believe it, and it was impossible for me to focus on anything. My soul felt like it had been smashed into a million pieces. Despite this, I decided to spend a few days to figure out what I was going to do about what I discovered. I couldn't face her without revealing that I not only knew her password but had also gone through her phone, all without her knowledge. I snapped a few screenshots while reading and decided to confess what I had done and face her. I persuaded myself that if trust was going to be shattered, it should be broken in both directions. So I took her down one evening and told her what I had discovered. She was angry at first because I had gone through her phone, but her focus immediately shifted to the DCK picture. She first said it was nothing and that he was simply a random person. I then informed her that I had learned about Mark from reading her chats with her closest friend. She ultimately admitted to everything I read after some back and forth. She said they only had once after we were exclusive, which I doubt, and that he meant nothing to her. I also discovered that Mark is married with children and that she had a pregnancy scare weeks before meeting me, which would have made him the father. We spoke about it for a long time, and she was in tears, apologizing for what she had done. We agreed that it would take some time, but that we could move on from this. She utterly ignored me the following day. I inquired as to how she was feeling and if she wanted to speak with me. Most of the time, she didn't respond or said, "I have nothing to say." I found out that she was furious at me for going through her phone, which I can understand, but what was more revealing was that she never found out how I felt. She never inquired as to how I was doing or whether I was alright. I began to wonder, who cheated on whom here? We had another lengthy discussion the next day and decided that this was not good for our relationship, so we resolved to move on. My mind has been racing with questions ever since. I kept wondering why she felt the need to maintain her friendship with Mark. Why wasn't it enough for her? I made my intentions known to her and followed it up with action, proposal plus marriage. Is she head over heels in love with Mark? She insists she isn't, but I'm not sure how you can go on like that with someone you don't care about. 2 years later, she's saying things like, "Everything in me wants to have with Mark." The second issue is that it has caused me to doubt everything. Would we have gotten married if she had informed me she cheated so soon into our relationship? Is she with me because Mark was unavailable and I was the best alternative? Is she really as in love with me as she claims? Worst of all, things that were never a problem before are now. As an example, we were at a party with some friends, people we regularly hang out with, and she needed some beverages and snacks, so she asked one of our male friends to drive her to the store. It wouldn't have mattered if this had happened before, but now it makes me very envious and worried. Why didn't she ask me first whether she could take her? What exactly is going on between the two of them? I find myself keeping track of the time to see how long they've been gone alone together and how they looked when they returned. It irritates me. I despise thinking in this manner. I despise who I've become as a result of my dishonesty. The distrust I now feel for her. It isn't me, and it isn't who I want to be. Someone tell me how I can trust her again. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to go forward? Thank you to anybody reads this.